Thank you, Nadia, and all our panelists for such a great session. We're now moving on to our keynote of the day, which is Eyewitness to History, Reporting on War and Genocide. We have with us Osama Bin Javaid, who's a broadcast journalist based out of Doha. He's worked extensively on South Asia, especially in Pakistan and Afghanistan. He has reported on global security, war on terror, and other issues related to South Asia and Middle East. Let's watch a brief video of his intro, and then I'd like to invite you on stage. The police and security services are out in force, clearing the protesters. Wherever the story brings, this is one of the two most important ports in this country, bringing you more than just the headlines. From the voices that matter to the truths that shape our world. Here in Paris, the police and security services are out in force, clearing the protesters, bringing you in-depth, trusted reporting from across the globe. These waters might receive in a few weeks or months, but climate change is here to stay. Wherever the news is, our reporters are there. People have to deal with destruction like this. Al Jazeera, authentic journalism.
Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, and I'm honored to be here at the CEJ. My association with CEJ is slightly hidden because I discussed it in 2007 with Patrick Butler and the ICFJ and the Knights Foundation with Azhar Abbas, who's not here right now. But it's a great honor to be here, to be amongst fellows and listen to the daily struggles again. My career has spanned throughout. The best of my 5 years were with Dawn, and it's a great honor to be amongst you. I had prepared some words, but I think listening to all of you, I think I would like to start with why are we here today, and why this renewed focus on journalism, journalists, and the message that us journalists carry. And I believe that being part of Al Jazeera, a lot of that we carry is because we stand on the shoulder of giants. And in the last 2.5 years, and I want to focus because there's a lot that you'll hear about Pakistan, and I want to broaden it out to the international community, to what we've been seeing as what used to be known as the norms of journalism, the norms of society, the norms of free media, the norms of justice, which no longer apply. We live in a world which is essentially run by the rules of the jungle, where a president can decide today that he's going to abduct another country's president, can decide on an illegal war. The media that a lot of us growing up saw as pillars of journalism is essentially part of the genocidal campaign, and not by mistake, by methodology, and has been consistently part of what should not be the norm. And I wanted to take this opportunity to remind you, because the genocide in Gaza is not over. It is still unfolding. The genocide has taken the worst forms of humanity, and there are cases that have happened to colleagues, friends, their families, which are undescribable, and they're still going through it. Actually, just coming in, I asked one of my colleagues, his name is Ibrahim Al Khalili, and Shazib, if you allow me, I did not share this with you or clear it with you, as most journalists do. I'm going to run an audio. And I asked him, Ibrahim, I'm going to go talk to journalists and people who want to become journalists in Pakistan. What would you like me to tell them? And here's a note that he's just sent me this morning, and I'll play it for you. Shukran, Osama, for having me. Yes, of course, every single journalist has a story here in the Gaza Strip. Like, for us as Palestinians, journalism is not just about telling the truth. It carries an even deeper meaning. Like, we don't just have a cause to report on, we have a cause to live for. And this has been
pushing us to sacrifice, like the number of Palestinian journalists killed, 262, reflect the immense sacrifice for the truth and the right to report it. It's heartbreaking and heart-wrenching to hear about the loss of a colleague during war coverage. And for me, as Ibrahim, I had a very bad experience during the war. I have been detained on the 18th of March 2024 when the Israeli military stormed Al Shifa hospital. I went through the detention, the harsh weather circumstances, the torture, the interrogation. It's very harsh. Like I've been living the same realities, the very realities I've been reporting on. Detention, starvation, countless displacement, uh, and all these factors affect you, affect your organ. At the end of the day, you're a human. You know what I mean? During that detention, I was released on the same day, like after 24 hours. But my oldest brother Muhammad was taken away, was detained by the Israeli military, and he spent 19 months in Israeli detention. And when he was released back on October 2025, when the U.S. global ceasefire took effect here in the Gaza Strip, he has mentioned a lot of harsh detention circumstances, torture, interrogation, being held without any charge. It's very hard, to say all what we have been living through in like 1 minute voice track. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, sir.
That's a grim reality. I asked Ibrahim if he could keep his answer to a minute. And he said, how do I tell you about my life in the last 2.5 years in a minute? How do I tell you about the scattered remains of children that I had to walk over to report? How do I tell you in a minute about my colleagues whose nails were pulled from their fingers as they were interrogated? How do I tell you in a minute about colleagues who are journalists who were raped by dogs? How do I tell you in a minute when I was displaced from one location to another location where I couldn't find a tent because people around me were afraid that you were a journalist who belongs to Al Jazeera and that would invite the wrath of the Israelis on us? How do I tell you in a minute when I had to look at my 10-year-old son and tell him that we don't have any food for days on end? That is the reality of our colleagues in Gaza. It has not ended. It is ongoing. I see a lot of people with pens. I want you to take notes. I want you to remember some names. I want you to Google Wael Dahdoh, Al Jazeera bureau chief in Gaza. I want you to Google his son, Hamza Dahdoh, who was killed in a targeted strike while he was driving in a car along with another colleague. I want you to Google Hossam Shabat. I want you to Google Sahla Jafrawi. I want you to Google Ismail al-Ghul. Ismail was one of the last people who remained in northern Gaza. I used to talk to him while I would hear explosions behind him. And these are very different conversations that you have in your newsroom, where you ask him to take cover and tell him to stay safe. And he says, well, nowhere is safe. What do I do? I am going to continue to report because that is how I deal with my reality. I want you to Google Anas al-Sharif. I want you to Google Solo Our Soul Khalid Nabhan. I want you to Google Hind Rajab, the 6-year-old girl, and I want you to Google what the media did about that incident. I want you to remember these names. Like you said, the cost of taking it to them is about remembering these giants. These Anas al-Sharif. Anas was a 20-something-year-old. He used to play table tennis. He was not a journalist. The war was brought to him. He did not seek a war. He reported on that war. He was given the option to flee Gaza with his mother. And I recently met his mother. I recently held his daughter, Sham Anas al-Sharif. I sat his daughter on one lap and my daughter on the other. And that's when it hit me that the sacrifices that the people of Gaza in general and the journalists of Gaza in particular are giving for the rest of the world are just immense. They're immeasurable. And the least we can do is remember it. The least we can do is keep Gaza not just in our thoughts and prayers, but on our coverage, on our front pages, on our news. I know that a lot of conflict fatigue seeps in, a lot of how many grim dead bodies are you going to see seeps in. These questions are asked almost on a daily basis in our newsroom that people are going to stop watching us because we show so much blood and gore. And I tell you what, the numbers for Al Jazeera have quadrupled during the Iran war. It's the highest numbers that we've seen on digital media, on our social media formats, on YouTube, on even TV numbers have increased. So here, the silver lining that Shazeb told you in the beginning is that this is not just a profession. This is a calling. I want you to remember the journalists and I want you to remember the major stories in Pakistan. Whether it was investigative stories, whether it was stories that brought people down, it is because of journalists. When you start pulling that thread, it ends up one reporter in one place, just thinking a bit deeper. I was in Syria and we were in occupied Quneitra. It's about 30 kilometers deeper into Syrian territory that Israelis have taken over. We set up our camera, we were about to do a live, and then my cameraman in a panic says, they're turning the tank towards us. I could see the color of his face change. And we stood there. We did our job. And we came out. And the first thing that I did was I messaged my colleagues in Gaza and I said, for a minute there, I felt what you go through every minute of every day. Amerikawa, 500 meters behind us, if he opens fire, then we're all toast. And there's no repercussions for them. There's going to be no accountability. But why do we do this? What's the point? Why do you have to be there? Is it glory? Is it vanity? Is it a sense of thrill? It isn't. My cameraman asked me this question. He said, "You have children. Why do you do this? What's the point? Who cares?" And I told him that I care. And why do I care? Right after we finished that live, in front of that tank, an old man came from half a destroyed building with a tray of coffee. And he sat down with us and he thanked us and he offered us coffee and he said, I have lost 3 of my sons during the Syrian revolution and I wish I had them so they could fight the Israelis today. Do you know why it was important? Because I did not see any of the media there. It was important because for the world, this is a story that is through the lenses of their various capitals. And that is your story as well. The story of Pakistan needs to be told by the people of Pakistan, regardless of whatever hardships come your way. Because if you're not going to tell it, there's somebody who will. And you might not like what they say. That is why it is important. I wanted to bring Gaza back to the equation because all of us journalists owe it to our colleagues in Gaza for the immense sacrifices that they've made. Many of them had the choices to leave. While at Dahdo, he was given multiple choices with threatening phone calls. He was in the office and they bombed his house. They killed his father, his mother, his grandkid. We were all watching in the newsroom in disbelief as he carried the bodies for burial. And then in a few hours, he went on air and he announced their deaths. And I couldn't face him. When I met while in Doha, I sat in front of him, and apart from him, the whole room was in tears. And I asked him why. And he goes, "This is what I do. This is my resistance. This is my calling. This is my profession." And I want you to remember this, as many of you either step into this profession or you are disillusioned in this profession, that there are people around us who are better than us. We stand on the shoulders of giants of this industry. People in their 20s who've done more than I have experience in journalism. And that is why it is important. And it will always remain important. Now, you've established who they are and what they did. Now have a look at the media on how the media landscape, through the sacrifices of the people of Gaza, every single news outlet has been exposed. There is no outlet in the world, bar a few, who can stand and claim their objectivity of their journalism, of their values, of their fairness, whether it's the language, whether it's the story choices. And you can look at online on how the media is covering it, whether it's the BBC or the New York Times or Sky News or CNN or Washington Post or you name it. All of these outlets which used to talk down to us in the global south about these are the standard bearers of journalism, you've seen their reality. For us in the global south, we knew about their reality, but now that has been exposed. And the beauty of this happened right after Ukraine. So everything that they showed the mirror to Russia on, whether it's occupation or it's a war crime or it's a crime against humanity or it's illegality or flouting international humanitarian laws, they completely changed the script when it came to Israel. And that is what I want you to take away with you. Because unless you take that mantle, you're always going to be talked down to. You'll always be told that these are the standards of journalism. You need to look at the history of journalism in Pakistan, of people who've actually made sacrifices for journalism in Pakistan. People who don't earn a lot of money, people who essentially may not be very well known, but essentially the journalism that they did has made the impact that you see. I would like to also point out our own failures in this. Right? Let's look at how in Pakistan we, as journalists, call this. We call it a war. Many of us don't call it a genocide. There are people in Pakistan who question, what did the Palestinians do? Should they have done something different? Why did they start the war? Why did they do this? There's a lot of victim blame. But there is only one way to look at this war, where there is a genocide, where there's a perpetrator and a victim. And it's clear as day. I've been in The Hague. I've seen the people. I have spoken to people across the Middle East. And I can tell you that there is seething anger below the surface because of the injustice. And only because if people like you and I give them the outlet to express that anger, that can be turned into another way as well. So I feel that this is, on a day like today, on the World Press Freedom Day, I think the freedom of press all over the world is owed to the journalists of Gaza. And I owe this day to them, and I pay tribute to them. And I'd like you to watch a video that remembers them. And that's all from me. Thank you.